not panic when you look down, and not panic when the rotation stops. Because once you feel the ski start to kind of hit its apex and come back down, all you have to do is turn back around to the bars, tuck your body in, and the ski will follow.
The barrel one-handed, one-footed. I like to get the wave not too close, like a backflip wave. If you get this kind of wave, you go too fast. So you get a wave like not too like this, like that, and go. You can go big and go high. How can I say? Far. You can go far and go big. So for took it off the hand, it's very easy. If you want to start, took it off the hand, it's way easy to do. It's very, very easy. And the foot, it's a little bit harder. You need to feel comfortable in the ski. And when you feel comfortable, just try to take a little bit off the foot. And after that, you're gonna take it off both the hand and the foot. And after that, just try to put more out you can. So for you get back on the barrel and handed and footed, you just get, it's instinct. You just, when you see your soil, are you landing? You just instinct, your foot and your hand go around again, and it's easy, pretty easy. And you need to you need to put your body for front, but because if you put your body for back, for sure you're gonna lose the ski because it's hard.
Once you learn to do a one-handed roll, kind of natural evolution in that is the no-handed roll. And there are several variations on the no-handed roll. Some people put their arms out to the side. Since I do my roll surf stance, I've been putting my arms kind of like this, and I do a little bit of a look back. Jerry Jones has his very unfortunately named Jerry curl that he does, no hands, looking back. I typically like to do no-handed rolls going a little bit faster than I do on a regular roll. I want to have a little more time in the air to get everything around. You also need to be very aware of where your body is in relation to the handle pole, because ultimately you're going to want to come back, because if you do a no-handed roll and you land it no-handed, that's called crashing, and we try to avoid that. For a long time, even after I started doing roll surf stance, I would still do no-handed rolls in the footholds. And the reason I would do that is because you have I felt like I had more control over the rotation with my feet in the footholds, because I still had leverage over the boat. I had lateral leverage over the boat. And when I would do a no-handed roll in the footholds, approach it basically the same way as I would a normal roll. However, you need to keep in mind that you need to initiate the rotation harder than you would, because you're going to slow yourself way down when you take your hands off. As well, I felt like what I would do is, as I started the roll, I would almost throw the handlebars in the direction we were going. That seemed to help initiate my rotation a little bit, and then I would take my hands off, keep my body weight forward so that I know where the handle pole is. I can come back to the handle pole, grab the bars, land it, and ride away like a champ. Typically, if I'm going to do a no-handed roll, I'm going to do it big, so I do it surf stance, and I do it big so that I have time to compensate in the air for the slowing of the rotation that happens when you take your hands off. So to do a no-handed roll surf stance, I'm going to hit the wave faster than I would normally, and I might transition my weight a little farther forward than I would normally, just so that I kind of feel where the handle pole is. I run my handle pole a little tight. Typically, when I place it, it stays there. But you don't have to run your pole tight to do this. If you run a loose pole, just tip into the pole a little bit. That's a really good way to make sure you know where the pole is when you come back. But hit it a little faster than normal. Throw your weight into it. I'll take my hands off this way. Maybe look back a little bit. It's not quite a jerry curl because I'm not pointing backwards like this. Still, you have to keep in mind where the water is, where your boat is in relation to the water. No-handed rolls are something that just take a little practice to get dialed in, but once you do, they're very fun. Well, how about no-handed barrel rolls? Because you do beautiful no-handed barrel rolls. What's the key or the trick to doing those?
Like all the other tricks also, a lot of training. Try it over and over again. A lot of people said it's necessary to tighten up the handle pole in order not to have a loose handle pole which is flying around during this no-handed barrel, but it's not necessary. I have my handle pole loose all the time. The only key is to lean forward further than you are used to do with a barrel, because if you are in regular riding position or even a little bit backwards and you let go with your hand, you will get away from the steering too far. So lean forward in order to get your hands quick back in the right position. I try to get over the handle pole pad always, and this makes me safe in doing it.
As you've seen, there's a lot of variations you can do on the barrel roll, and they're really kind of limitless. One of the new variations we're doing is a can-can barrel roll. It's a lot like the can-can backflip we're going to talk about later, but we do it in a barrel roll. So much like the other one-footed and one-handed, one-footed rolls we saw from Tiago, we're going to want to make sure that our foot is securely locked in the tray. Now, when I've done these, I lock in my left foot, I take out my right leg. We'll do them both to the left and to the right. I still take out the same leg, and primarily I do that just because I'm comfortable doing a can-can with my right leg. When I do a regular one-handed, one-footed roll, I take my left leg out. But for this one, for the can-can, we'll do it with the right leg. So basically, you set up for it just like a normal barrel roll. Again, we're going to compensate because our rotation is going to be slower. We're going to compensate by throwing it a little bit harder.
So first we'll do a can-can barrel roll. The can-can roll, you lock one foot in, the other foot goes out like this. Okay? Okay.
When I do the can-can roll, I like to focus on throwing my weight forward, because the whole act of taking your leg out and sticking it this way, your weight's going to be transitioning back naturally because you got to make room to get your leg out. So you want to overcompensate a little bit in the beginning by throwing your weight forward. I make sure I have my front foot forward and out of the foot strap. We start our roll. When we start our roll, I throw my weight forward and then I take my leg and I try to kick it out and away from my body as far as I can. Now, when you do that, you're going to want to still pay close attention to what's going on around you, how the boat's rotating, and you're going to want to compensate for that rotation.
Woo! That was the worst one I've ever done. Woo! Try that again.
Again, regular roll, head up the face of the wave. We're going to the left this time. Boom, to the left, kick the leg out, look for your rotation, spot your landing, bring it back, boom, right away like a pro.
It's alright, it's kind of gay. Not really that good.
The next thing we're going to do, doing it to the right.
Okay, now we're going to do a can-can roll, but to the right, the opposite direction. Okay? So, the foot still goes the same way, but we'll do a barrel roll opposite direction, to the right.
The right's basically the same thing, except you have a little bit more leverage over the boat, because again, now we have our outside foot locked in. So I feel like I have a little more control, just a little more leverage over the boat.
Come here.
Anyway, going to the right, same basic thing. We head up the face of the wave. We throw our body weight forward while we're initiating the roll, overcompensate a little bit, going forward, stick the leg out. Now, when you stick the leg out going to the right, I look for the water kind of over my head and over my shoulder. Still try to get the leg nice and boned out, land it like a pro. Again, because you're a stud. That's the way you roll. You're a badass. Oh, what's the guy from Eastbound and Down?
Kenny Powers.
Kenny Powers. Listen, sometimes when you do this, you gotta channel a little Kenny Powers. Because you're a badass.
Okay, that's a can-can roll to the right. Can do that.
So now we can do a can-can roll to the right. We do a can-can roll to the left. Now let's throw a lot of variation into it. We're gonna do what, I guess you could call it a Madonna roll.
Okay, we'll do this one-handed can-can roll. Okay? So the hand is gonna come up like this, the foot goes like this, it'll be great. You guys are gonna love it.
Now we're gonna do a lot of variation on this. There's arms coming off, there's hands coming off. This is all gonna slow you down. So again, when we start this, we're gonna also overcompensate. I say overcompensate. We're gonna push harder and throw our weight forward more than we would on a traditional roll. Because again, we're gonna transition our weight back when we take the hand off and we take the leg off.
That was all right.
It's a little hard to get the body placement just right when we're doing it here without the boat moving, because really when you do it, throw your weight forward hard, but you get your weight pretty far over the side of the boat because you have to make room to get your leg out and over the gunwale and really get it as far sideways as possible. Same thing goes for the one-handed can-can roll. It's kind of fun to do it and try to look back a little bit. Just adds a little bit of style to the move. So left foot locked in just like a regular can-can roll. Again, I don't really look for much different in the waves, just a regular barrel roll wave. Of course, you're going to compensate for the wave in your roll. A wave that you hit earlier, you're not going to have to transition your weight forward as much as you would on a wave that you hit later. Set up with one foot, and I've noticed that I've been taking my foot out of the strap, but also kind of putting it on top of the strap a little bit. Keep my weight forward that way. So we initiate the roll again with the bars mostly, throw our weight forward, leg comes out, we go sideways, take the arm off and maybe try to look back. Keep in mind where our boat is in relation to the water, and we come back, we land, and we ride it away.
We'll do one more little variation. See if I can do it really quick. We're gonna do look back, point, can-can. That was all right.
There are a couple tricks that scare the crap out of me, and that's barrel roll re-entries, and at least big barrel roll re-entries, and double barrel rolls. I think the best guy to explain those to you is going to be Mr. Mark Sickerling.
I go straight at a wave which is supposed to be 6 to 8 foot high. It's important to go fast. It needs to be steep, but not curling over. So no curl, no white water on top. Me personally, and I also watch Federico often doing it, we both do a little turn on the bottom of the wave in order to turn then all the way to the side and going up straight the wave, but with a turn. So I have more steering going to the side, gets me a quicker rotation, and in the air it's most important to get as tiny with the ski as possible, which is really difficult because the spin trying to throw you out really quick. In the beginning it will be really difficult to open your eyes doing it, but it's the better way. So if you are the first time around, you can judge how high you are and where you are going to land, and you can also later judge how far it will go around. And then, yeah, hold your breath, and a big impact is going to hit you.
The only guy I've ever heard of that even tried to do double barrel roll surf stance was Joe Kinney. Joe's crazier than all of us, more talented than anybody else in the world on a jet ski, so I would say unless you think you're better than Joe Kinney, do your double barrel rolls in the footholds. Barrel roll re-entry in and of itself is not necessarily a really high risk move. It's just a very technical trick and it's really hard to land. However, the ironic thing is it's easier to do on a bigger, more powerful wave, but it also makes it a little more dangerous trick. Basically, what you want to do is A, be very comfortable with re-entries, and B, be very comfortable with barrel rolls. And you also need to be very good at controlling your pitch in the roll. And so for that, you need a really, you need to be really aware of where you are in the air. So for barrel roll re-entry, you're going to approach the wave much as you would for a regular re-entry. You're going to want to do the barrel roll re-entry just about a beat later than you would on a regular re-entry, and the wave needs to be really powerful because you're going to have to use some of the momentum from the wave to push you back in front of it to re-enter. You can do them both surf stance and in the foothold. I've had the most success with them actually surf stance, and I think that's just because I'm more comfortable hitting the bigger waves that way. But you approach the wave like you would for a re-entry, powerful wave. We're going to hit it a touch later, but what we're going to do, instead of throwing a typical barrel roll, we're almost going to have to pull like we do for an underflip, meaning we're going to have to pull the nose of the boat from a course of trajectory that would take us over the back of the wave to one that takes us back in front of the wave. So we approach the wave. As we throw the roll, typically we throw our weight forward. This time we're going to throw our weight backwards. But when we look for our landing, it's going to be, we're going to try to land in the white water, but the way it typically works out is you're just going to land wherever you land. The real key to doing this successfully is hitting the wave late. You need to be very comfortable rotating the boat in the air. You're going to want to rotate it as fast as you can, and you're going to want to keep your weight back, because the two things that typically happen is either you land behind the wave, not such a big deal, or you land in front of the wave, nose low. Because typically for a normal barrel roll, we're pushing forward, and in this case, we need to keep the nose up, so when we land, we don't pearl. Whoa, that is a great way to pinch your nuts in the hood. Don't ever do that trick. So now, everyone is expert surf rider, barrel roller, nose stabber, high hopper. Now we're going to learn to do what everybody wants to know how to do, which is the back flipping. So we're going to learn the back flip from Mark Sickling. I'll tell you a little bit of my technique for flips. Tiago is going to tell you a little bit how he flips. Mr. Air Darren is going to take us out with telling you how to do huge backflips and still survive.
When I learned it, we thought we need to be extremely high to learn it in order to get around with the ski. It's not necessary at all. It can be really a small wave. The most important thing is to get a wave which curls the first second. If you hit this slip with the white water, it will throw you much quicker than if you go over a wave without white water. And I personally, when I do it over a little wave, I do it like in flat water. I have both of my feet in my footholds, and I extend with my body. And most important for me is to get a quicker spin, to look backwards. This is the key also on flat water, to get the ski around. So look where you are going, and later on, when you can do it on tiny waves, not really high, it's not dangerous. I never hurt myself even landing upside down in a back loop, so it's not really dangerous. And later on, when you go faster, you can also take a wave without a lip and then pull your head backwards in order to rotate a little bit later, and then you can control how high and how far around you want to go.
You run pretty big motors, 1000cc motors. Do you change the amount of throttle you give it depending on the wave?
No, only the time where I push the throttle. So when I go for a big one, I push it maybe, I don't know, 2 seconds before I launch the wave. And on a small one, you can go really, really slow until you reach the bottom of the wave, and then you push the gas all the way, only for 1 second, and it will spin you around.
Flipping, like the act of flipping, is easy. It's simpler than doing a roll. It's simpler than doing a lot of the other tricks. There are two things that are really important to doing your first flips in the surf. Number one is timing, and number two is commitment. Backflip's not a hard trick to do. You're basically going from straight up to just past straight down. There's not a lot of rotation involved in it, but it is probably the hardest trick to get yourself to do for the first time. It's just a huge mental hurdle to make yourself go at a wave way later than you want to, drive the boat up in the air over